Welcome to Piloting Your Project. Today we're going to be thinking about how you bring your idea to life. For the session today, we're going to focus on several different aspects. First is explaining what a pilot is and why it's critical for your success. How to effectively pilot your idea through two techniques, one called storyboarding and another called prototyping. We'll look at a few examples of each, and then the most exciting part is you will have an opportunity to practice both of those things as you think through how to go about getting feedback on your passion project. So let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about what is a pilot, or why would you want to pilot an idea? Here's an example of a brilliant idea that somebody had about installing what they're calling the crib dribbler into a baby's crib so that they can have easy access to water, milk, whatever the case is. They're calling it a feeding system. Now, I probably don't have to go into great detail about the absurdity of this, but I will tell you to take a particular look at this third bullet here about what they're saying the crib dribbler is perfect for. I can't believe that they're actually suggesting that a parent put stew or cocoa in this system and give the child access to that on a as-needed basis. So as you would imagine, this particular company may not have gone to the great lengths to actually test out this product prior to putting it into sort of manufacturing. And as you can imagine, it was not successful, and that company was closed for business. Now that is what we're hoping to avoid by working on developing a pilot for your idea. All right? We're trying to avoid the imminent and costly failure of manufacturing something or trying to put something in place with a great deal of time and effort and probably money with it only to inevitably fail. Now, this is not to say that failure isn't a part of piloting or testing out ideas. It's a very, very important part. And so as we think about how we're going to approach this, understand that it's only through this sort of trial and error and failure process that we get to an idea that's really impactful and really powerful. So I'd encourage you to think about how you, in your own mindset, can approach failure as a teaching tool during this process. So let's look at what a pilot is. Many of you might recognize the image on the right. We've got Snoopy, aka the Red Baron, flying his plane in the famous Peanuts character cartoons. We're not talking about that kind of airplane pilot. What we're talking about is an idea and taking an idea and translating it into a concept. And it's translating it into a way that it can be shared with others. And again, we're going to be talking about two different ways to do that. The first is called storyboarding, which uses images and drawings to convey an idea. And the other is called prototyping, which uses easy, very cheap, everyday materials to communicate your idea. And the goal is for it to be simple. And again, as we've already talked about, the goal of a pilot is to gather feedback on your concept or idea so that you can continue to refine it and find out what your audience really wants and how effective your idea is. So let's think about this, all right, as far as a quote, that everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Remember, as you're thinking through your storyboard and your prototype, you really want to be thinking about how can you easily and effectively communicate your idea. Not so simple that it's not clear to the audience what you're trying to do, but not so complex or costly that you're spending unnecessary effort, time, or money to just communicate your idea, which hopefully you will refine over time. So let's look at this first example of a pilot, and it's called a storyboard. Now you have several slides and several pages in your packet that will give you space for planning out your story or your idea. And again, the goal here, as the name would indicate, is to tell a story. And as far as your storyboard is concerned, you should be thinking about four main ideas. The first is, who is the character in your story? Who's the main protagonist? Who is the person you are trying to reach and make an impact on for your idea? The second would be, is what is the situation? So in what context do we find the character? What's the setting? What sorts of environmental pieces are in play? And then really, ultimately, all of you have thought about a problem. And so what is the challenge that the character faces? And so identifying specifically what the problem is will then help you think through the last piece, which is the resolution. So how is the problem resolved using your ideas and your concept? So you want to walk through this whole process in your storyboard. And again, this is a visual story that is going to hopefully communicate your idea to somebody else. So let's look at an example here. Here's two of my kids and my wife, and these are the characters in my story. All right. The context is certainly within our life, and the situation involves the fact that there's a new Star Wars movie that has just come out. Now I know this might be a little bit outdated. The Force Awakens is not the most recent Star Wars, but go with me here, okay? And my kids love Star Wars. So when this came out and they heard about it, they were all about it, totally excited to go and see it. The problem, which many of you may relate to, is the fact that the movie is rated PG-13. They can't go and see it. Well, they probably could, but we weren't going to be taking them to go see it. So, what are we going to do? Well, we thought about, here's a potential resolution. What if we held an outdoor lightsaber event? They would get to experience what it's like to be involved in sort of Star Wars-like simulations. They'd be able to get outside. It would be fun. They could invite their friends, all in the spirit of Star Wars. So that's just one example. Now, if I was storyboarding this, I would include in the various slides a graphic representation of the various pieces that I just explained. Let me give you another example. Here's Bob. Bob is a regular guy. He notices a situation. One of the situations is he loves baseball. He wants his kids to play. He wants them to enjoy the same experience that he had as a youth playing baseball, the camaraderie, all of the various positive aspects of being on a team and playing baseball together. All right. Now the problem is that over the last 13 years or so, the participation in youth baseball in the United States has dropped significantly, down to, in 2013, only 5.3 million youth are involved in baseball. And so what he's recognizing is there's just lower interest in baseball. So how might he go about trying to encourage more participation in baseball, regardless of whether or not it's actually in sort of Little League or rec or whatever the case is? And so his idea is, what about a weekly neighborhood baseball game? Get the neighbors together, play a little game, not super competitive, but just gets them the opportunity to experience what it's like to play baseball. And that was his idea. And so again, communicating that idea through a storyboard would include drawing out the various parts of a storyboard into these squares. And again, you have them listed on your in your packet. And again, you want to try to go through the full process of identifying the character, kind of highlighting the situation, being clear about what the problem is, and ultimately showing what your resolution is for that challenge. And again, you'll notice that there's also spaces to write things at the bottom underneath your storyboards. So that would be an option for you to sort of clarify what your visual representation is. I know I'm not the best artist. This is not about creating amazing artwork. This is about sort of clarifying and communicating your ideas and helping you sort of work through this process to have an idea to share with others. Okay? So, the next piece would be that once you complete your storyboard, you really want to get some feedback on it. And I'm going to be asking you to do this shortly. So once you have developed your storyboard on your page or on your pages, you want to identify some people to talk to. It's always a good idea to find people that are maybe similar to the character in your storyboard to get feedback. Ultimately, they are the audience that you're trying to reach. So that'd be a good way to find real sort of relevant feedback for your idea. You also want to try to avoid asking simple yes or no questions. Again, how does a yes or no answer help you in sort of refining your idea? The next is so instead of asking yes or no questions, think about asking open-ended questions like, what excites you the most about this idea and why? How would you improve this idea? Okay? So ask those types of questions, and in your packet there's some suggestions for good questions to ask to get feedback. Then again, as we mentioned from the very beginning, you might get feedback that feels a little difficult to take. Like somebody might not understand what you're trying to communicate. Somebody might not understand how you're solving the problem with the resolution that you've suggested. Those are all constructive pieces of feedback it's important for you to hear that and then go back to your storyboard and refine it to sort of be able to more clearly articulate or explain how you are going to go about attacking the project or the problem that you've identified. Again, it's not a critique of you, it's more of just helpful feedback to continue to refine it to make it as best as possible. Because ultimately the goal is to help you be successful in implementing the change that you want to have implemented. All right? And this is an important process, part of the process of doing that. Okay? So now, I'd like you to take some time and to think through making your storyboard. So take around 10 or 15 minutes, you can pause the video, and work on actually storyboarding your idea and identifying these 4 main characteristics on your storyboard. Good luck! So welcome back. So how did that go? What I'd like you to do now is get together with a partner and talk a little bit about how that process of storyboarding went, as well as how did the process of gathering feedback go. Maybe share a little bit about some of the feedback that you got. Take a minute to sort of talk through maybe what are some of the challenges that you faced. And also share what would you do differently now after you got that feedback. So if you would make any adjustments to your storyboard or you would do anything differently next time, share that as well. So take a moment, you can pause the video and share with a partner about how that process went. All right, now we're going to move on to prototyping. And as I mentioned before, this is the second kind of piloting that's going to be important as you think through this process. Now, prototyping is developing a representation of your idea that lets you share it with others and discuss how to refine it. So basically, it's taking your storyboard and thinking through a way that you can actually now share the experience. This could be a user experience. It could be a more closely related to what your idea is with an audience. And again, the goal here is to have something to share and get feedback from others so that you can continue to refine it. Again, that's all that we're trying to work through during this initial process of piloting, is come up with an idea, share it, get feedback, make it better. So let's talk about prototyping. You may have seen cars like this that drive around, okay? If you were to take a guess, what brand or make of car would you say this is? Many of you might think that this is a BMW. It looks like that. The grille, the front of the car looks that way. The way that the car is sort of shaped has that sense. But actually, It's a Honda. Now, Honda has gone to great lengths to try to disguise their prototypes to confuse others so that they don't get their secrets. But that's not exactly what we're talking about here. What we're talking about for prototypes for your situation and for your projects is that they should be simple. So early prototypes should be, they should take less than an hour to make and definitely less than $10 as far as the cost. All right? You're looking sort of to use everyday materials, odds and ends, sort of whatever you have at your disposal, and not going into going to the lengths that car companies might go to make very expensive prototypes. Okay, so that's not what we're talking about. What we're really looking at is, as you can see here, one of our students is working with everyday materials like yarn and string and scissors and tape to put together very easy and inexpensive prototypes. So let's look at a few more examples here and reflect back on some of the ones I've already shared. The first, remember the situation where my kids really wanted to learn more about Star Wars, they wanted to participate in that, and they weren't able to because the movie was PG-13? And we thought about maybe looking at an outdoor lightsaber event just to get them that experience. Well, that's what we could do. Some cheap, easy lightsabers, get them together, get the kids excited about it, get them to engage in one another, obviously putting in some safety rules and things like that. But again, something fun, cheap, easy to get them that experience. And then again, this could morph into, almost like indoor laser tag Star Wars themed events, if that was something that you were trying to inspire and do for your community. So again, a really cheap way to test out the idea. Here's another example. Some of you may be thinking through ways that you might be able to utilize technology to make an impact on whatever the sort of passion project that you're involved in. And if you're choosing to go that route, I would really encourage you to think through designing what the user interface or the experience is for the audience that's going to be engaged on that simulation or on that application. So in this situation, students printed out diagrams of a phone, and they took just a short amount of time to sort of sketch out what that experience is going to look like. They could literally hand these cutouts to somebody to manipulate with their hands to get the experience and get the feedback of what it was like to use to go through this process with this user interface, so that then they could design it better for the next time. Again, they're trying to lay out all of the various options for the people that would work through this particular app on the phone. And so again, if that is something that you're interested in and you are thinking about using technology, think about how you could design the experience so that the audience would get the real user experience for that platform. Let's look at another example. You may be really trying to focus on encouraging healthy behaviors. And for this particular student in this prototype, that's what they were focused on. What the idea is if you're sitting around in your room, or maybe for an adult, if you're sitting around in your office and you set a reminder on your phone to do something active, maybe every hour, but you're just not sure what to do. You have no idea how to exercise. You don't want to do the same thing every time. You're looking for a little variety. This student thought up this way to do that. And again, very cheap, popsicle sticks, tape, a writing utensil. And what they did is they built two different exercises, two different styles of exercise. So you see blue tape and green tape. So every hour you would pull out a blue popsicle stick and a green popsicle stick, and you would do those exercises. So again, a very cheap, easy, quick way to prototype what it might be like to provide users with a sort of random collection of exercises to do every so often. So again, very easy, very simple. They can get feedback on this pretty easily, and it's again pretty easy to replicate and then adjust from there. And so that's really what you're looking for. So your goal now is really to take that next step from looking at your storyboard, identifying what in that storyboard you might be able to prototype. And again, what you're looking for is trying to find a way to get something in the hands of the audience so that you can get more feedback. All right, so think about the storyboard and how you might develop a prototype that would fit within that storyboard to get you the information that you want. Okay, and there's no reason you couldn't create more than one prototype. All right, again, the whole idea is that you may try different things. They may work, they may not work. And then if you take that feedback and you apply it moving forward, you're just going to be in that much better a position to really meet the need and make the impact that you're hoping to do. So after you identify where you're going to prototype or what sorts of things you're going to prototype, the next is to look for supplies. And I know that you hopefully will have some supplies at school at your disposal, but you could also use your computer to design concepts, to sketch things out, to write up ideas, and then the next step would be really to build it. And again, that could take the form, as you saw in previous examples, of an actual physical item or a physical prototype. It could also look like a series of designs on maybe a phone or a technological interface. It could be any number of different things. Really, the sky's the limit as far as prototyping is concerned. But again, your goal, I want to refer you back to the goal of trying to find a way to get something into the hands of your users so that they can experience what you're hoping to create and give you feedback. And then you can learn from there. Finally, I'll just keep this up here again, that you want to go through this process because the feedback is so important. All right? So if you decided to make changes to your storyboard, that might be one of your first steps. Make those changes to your storyboard. Give it some time with some other people to take a look. Ask them some questions. Get some more feedback. Continue to refine. If you're to the point now where you want to actually start to prototype, you would then want to start to develop what that looks like. Remember to keep it simple, keep it easy, and then get that into the hands of some relevant people. Hopefully, people that might be similar to the audience you're trying to reach. And then get more feedback. Ask them similar questions. Remember, avoid yes or no questions. Ask them more open-ended questions. How did it make them feel? Was this making the impact that you'd hoped? And then get that feedback and then potentially refine your prototype. So it's just a continuing process of feedback and refinement and feedback and refinement to get to the point where you feel comfortable actually launching your idea. And at that point, you're ready to really design something a little bit more robust. I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions, I hopefully will be available to answer them. Thank you for your time, and best of luck piloting.